So I just got back from my trip, or adjusted my green screen settings, as most of you seem to think, and sometimes the Apple sheep just needs to simply graze, okay? I complain about a lot of what they do, and I complain about Apple's competitors, but sometimes I just want to brag a little bit and boast on how easy Apple made it to travel throughout the world and still make content and live stream for you guys, because this is one of those areas where the ecosystem shines truly bright, and because I haven't traveled with a huge workstation before, I had a new appreciation for how the ecosystem all worked together. So without further ado, let's begin. So when you travel, of course, batteries are pretty dang important to make sure everything keeps working, and thankfully, Apple has made it fairly simple, again, they could do better here, but fairly simple for me to charge all of my devices, which include my 16-inch MacBook Pro, my Airpods Pro, my iPhone 13 Pro Max, my iPad Pro with Apple Pencil, and last but not least, the Apple Watch Series 7. Between all of these different devices, some being portless, some having Lightning, some having USB-C, I was able to charge all of these basically with 2 cables and 2 bricks. Sure, I could have bought some third-party Anchor brick, but honestly, with being able to move things around and me wanting to keep MagSafe Duo by my bed for my nightstand, it was actually easier to have 2 separate bricks than I think it would be to try to share everything with a single brick. But yeah, I only brought one 30-watt USB-C brick, which fast charges the iPad, which, because it's old and it doesn't have a calculator or Final Cut or macOS, who cares about that thing? It can fast charge, it can hurt the battery, it's almost 4 years old now, whatever. Whereas my MacBook Pro is fairly new, I'm okay with it slow charging, and the 30-watt USB-C brick, even with the M1 Max and everything, is still able to charge up the MacBook, albeit slowly. So if I really wanted to, I could have brought the 140-watt USB-C adapter, but yeah, I did not take MagSafe on my trip because to me, it was not super vital that it needed to be there. The main reason I'm okay with MagSafe coming back is because Apple didn't eliminate the option to charge via USB-C, and while I was on my trip, it actually ended up being very, very useful because I was editing and using my computer in different environments that I could charge it from the left or the right. Thank you, USB-C, for being capable of that. And of course, my iPad and my MacBook hardly ever needed to be charged at the same time, so they kind of played leapfrog with each other. And then MagSafe Duo charged my watch every night and my phone. Plus, when my AirPods Pro battery got low, I just dropped it on the MagSafe section during the daytime when I wasn't using my headphones as much. And what I like about AirPods is that the pods themselves can get a full charge while the case is low, so I put the pods in and I'm using them while I'm video editing, and simultaneously the charge case is sitting on MagSafe Duo charging up. So once my AirPods Pro eventually do run out of charge, I drop them in the case and they charge back up. So I've really never run into a situation where I'm like, man, I really need to use my headphones right now, but they just can't hold a charge. I typically only charge my AirPods Pro maybe once a week, and especially with the long flights I was taking to Puerto Rico, having active noise cancellation, super duper helpful on flights. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And yes, for those of you panicking right now, you actually edit videos with wireless headphones? It's not that bad. I think the latency kings out there get a little bit hung up on this detail. Yeah, I connect my AirPods Pro to my MacBook with Final Cut, and the latency, honestly, is reasonable. It's like slightly behind every time you press play or pause, but it's such a small detail, I could still edit just as fast as before. So my travel bag was inherently lighter because I didn't have to pack that many cables, but the other fine detail that might be present on Android or Google or whatever, I don't really care. Let me just highlight how cool it is that in today's world, you can digitally prepare for everything you need to go to the airport. You know, as soon as we checked in with our flights, there was a link right away on the website that was like, would you like to add your boarding pass to your Apple Wallet? You just press that, it shows up in the wallet. Even if the gates change at the airport, that information will update on the digital pass. And alongside that, you have the little QR code you gotta scan to get onto the plane. That QR code in the boarding pass also magically shows up on your Apple Watch. So if your phone is in your pocket or you're busy doing something else and it's time to board the plane, I literally can just double tap the side button, bring up the boarding pass on my watch, and actually board the flight with my wrist. I don't even have to use my phone anymore, and I'm so glad we're past the days of having to print out our actual boarding passes. I don't miss that at all, and I love how simple airlines have made it to incorporate into the Apple Wallet app. So thank you, Apple Watch and iPhone, for communicating communicating so efficiently. That's amazing. But of course, when you're on the plane, you know, you don't want to use those onboard screens that have really crappy pixel density. Plus, who actually has headphone jacks anymore? You gotta plug in somewhere on the stupid armrest to try to connect your headphones to what's playing on the screen in front of you, especially because we were flying late at night. I much preferred the planes that didn't have screens on them at all, but they did have onboard Wi-Fi that you could connect your device to and then watch content through your own device. That ended up being super useful because the iPad obviously is a much bigger screen than our phones, and when me and my wife wanted to watch a movie or a show, it has the Bluetooth sharing feature, which is way better than dual Bluetooth sharing on the Mac, which for some reason is pretty complicated. You have to go into audio settings and set up this multi-output device, which even when you do that, it prevents you from adjusting the volume. So I don't know why it's so hard to share headphones with a MacBook, but thankfully the iPad was there anyway, and because of how beefy and large my MacBook Pro was, I didn't want to pull that whole thing out and put it on the food tray and everything. It would be kind of flopping over the edges. So the MacBook stayed in my backpack while we were on the plane, but the iPad Pro, very thin, very light, and because I got rid of that stupid expensive Magic Keyboard case, I could actually set it up and have plenty of room left over on the food tray for my drinks or snacks. And thanks to the AirPlay settings in Control Center on the iPad, it was really easy for the iPad to play audio to my AirPods Pro and my wife's AirPods simultaneously. They also make it pretty dang simple for you to adjust your volume, so my wife likes it a little bit quieter while I like it a tad louder, so we can adjust our volume settings right there, and we're both watching a movie or a show together, and it's not taking up too much space on the tray in front of us, so especially during layovers, if we wanted to watch stuff together, having that Bluetooth sharing was a godsend. And long are gone the days where we actually had to, you know, either put one bud in one person's ear and then your left or right ear felt just incredibly lonely, or you bring both your wired headphones and you gotta also pack a headphone jack splitter to plug into the airline audio jack port or into your iPad or iPhone and try to share everything, and then you've got all these wires going between each other. I think personally it's insanely cool that during some of our layover flights we were able to just chill in the airport. We propped the iPad with its narrow footprint on top of our suitcase, and it's wirelessly sending audio to 4 different individual pods. Technically it's probably fairly simple, but I still think in modern day that's something that should be appreciated more than what we had before, which was trying to, you know, keep each other close together so you could have one pod in each ear, or having the headphone jack splitter and having more wires that you gotta pack around with you. The Bluetooth audio sharing thing was immensely helpful, so thank you, Apple, for making that simple to set up with the iPad, and of course for the battery life to be so great across my phone and my MacBook. The Apple Watch lasted over a day on a charge, thankfully, and the iPad was probably what has the worst battery life throughout my ecosystem because it's 4 years old, and with all the fast charging I've done with it, I'm sure the battery health has taken a hit, but luckily the iPadOS team is lazy and has not put a battery health feature into settings, so I don't know what it is, and don't tell me you can plug it into your Mac and download this one part. I don't care. I know it's bad, and I'm not going to replace it anyway, so iPad, you're not worth the time. Last but not least, once we actually got to our destination in Puerto Rico, another great feature I love about the iOS ecosystem is how when you're in a different place and you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, you basically just tap on the network, and then our host friends who are already connected to the Wi-Fi just get a little pop-up on their phone. They hit share password, and boom, my device is connected, and I used that Wi-Fi for several weeks, and I still have no idea what the password is. Because Apple made it so simple to be like, hey, this person wants to join your Wi-Fi. Are you okay with that? And they can just say yes. It was probably some long string of letters and numbers that I didn't want to have to put in the time to enter, so I loved that Apple made it very easy to share Wi-Fi between all of our devices. Honorable mentions, of course, should go without saying. AirDrop was immensely helpful because over the past couple weeks, all of my tech videos were shot on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I did not bring my Blackmagic camera with me. It did an amazing job, so hats off to the awesome cameras on board this thing that still took incredible video, even without HDR turned on. Honestly, I tried the HDR setting, and for some reason it makes everything worse. Literally, it's like my face is darker and the background is blown out. So if you don't have HDR on, the video looks great, and I was able to share all of that wirelessly to my MacBook, and it was pretty quick because I wasn't shooting at ProRes or anything. These file sizes were relatively small, so that made video editing super easy, and I was able to edit 3-4 videos all shot at 4K at 60 off the MacBook with a single charge, so the amount of times I actually had to go grab the 30-watt USB-C brick to charge my MacBook was pretty far and few between, and my Apple Watch was often unlocking my MacBook every time I opened it. So, whole bunch of great experiences is and ease of travel thanks to Apple and how well their ecosystem works. If you want to see where I visited and all the places we checked out in Puerto Rico, go check out Tailosive Talks. That's where all the vlogs are covering my journey. But thank you all for staying tuned during Tailosive Tech on the go. We're back home now, which is awesome, but of course I'm still gonna miss a lot of the great things we saw while we were there, and definitely expect more travel in the future. So, fun fact, this is the first time I've actually used this background this year, but there will be more different backgrounds to come as we travel to more places. This is exactly why I bought the MacBook Pro, because I want to take work with me wherever I am and see more of the world while still hanging out and interacting with you guys. This is your Alp Sheep here. I'll see you all in the next one.